Don't miss another update.
Jai Shri Ram on the happy and sacred occasion of Ram Navami to all our viewers in India and in the USA and abroad. Today we are going to discuss a topic which is actually very close to our heart, but most often, or rather more often than not, we are not ready to express it because we are simply too apologetic about it. So, today we make an important break with this hesitation that we have. And today is Wednesday, 10 p.m. And of course, Shri Vibhuti Jha. Welcome, Vibhuti Ji.
Namaste. Namaste, very.
So we are going to talk about Hindu unfriendliness, and I think it's very important for us these days to reverse the gaze. And all along, what has happened, I think over past 200 years or so, that the West has judged us on parameters that they have defined for themselves, or rather, they have defined it for others, whether they themselves follow it or not. But they do impose it on others. They call it Western Universalism. Western Universalism is maybe good for the West. It may not necessarily be good for us. And that's what we have been actually saying for, I think, more stridently than ever for the last 5-7 years or so. Why should we let them judge our faith, our society, our institutions? Why should let them impose their own concepts of truth, freedom, justice, and democracy? Why shouldn't we judge them on our concept of dharma?
Absolutely brilliant, and I'm 100% in agreement with you on this, because this is a battle that we need to have. We need to engage in battle. Engage in the concept of proving the other person being unfair. Why must we take things lying down? This has been our history, and our history is, as we have often talked about, is a question of narrative. It angers me because it angers me that no country is more tolerant than India, and we are the ones who are accused of intolerance. No country has been home to all persecuted religions in the world, yet we are called intolerant. And let's take one example. I remember that when in Odisha one missionary was killed, that was a global story. Ultimately, we came to know that it was a case of an unfortunate accident or whatever. But that made global story. But the fact that there was ethnic cleansing in Kashmir did not even bring about a rat's squeal anywhere. How do we blame and who do we blame? Because the narrative is for us to set. And that's what I'm trying to say to you, that to all Indians actually, and especially Hindus, because we have been most accepting of every other faith. Let's put in another way. Academics have a way of defining things. As the saying goes, academics have many names for government structures. They are called monarchy, communism, democracy, and socialism. But there is really one. The world has always been ruled by a small group of men with cunning, strength, drive to take the exercise of power. Remember that. It's so important to be remembered. Whether it's any form, middle class, in monarchy also paid taxes, in democracy also he pays taxes. We always do things for the middle class, for the grandchildren. That is the kahane kehne ke liye baat hai. But we are on the subject matter of the hatred towards Hindus. And I notice it here. I came to this country in 91. To date precise, it was April of 1991. So I've completed 30 years. So I'm not as young as I look. I'm not as old people might think. But be that as it may, I wanted to say that I've seen a lot here. And I've seen a lot primarily because I've never seen such unfriendliness towards Hindus as it exists today. And the reason for that is the advancements in science and technology, which has given us a voice. The amount of conversation that Hindus are having amongst themselves is big. And in America, particularly, because it's a country of the land and the free, you are seeing trends that are allowing Hindus to see, agar wo kar sakta hai, to hum kyun nahi kar rahe hain? Why aren't we doing it? So, I'll give you an example. Yesterday was a pretty important day in the US social life and judiciary life, that a person called Mr. Lloyd. It's a global sad story that a policeman was on his neck for 9 minutes plus, and he died. He was declared guilty on all three charges, all three counts of charges. And there were threats of violence. There are two sides to this entire conversation. One is, in my opinion, justice was served. And I think that's what everybody believes, that justice was served, because there is no justification for a policeman to be kneeling on somebody's neck with such ferocity, and his colleagues watching what he's doing. Nobody's trying to, save the situation. On the other hand, nobody can justify that. So that justice was delivered, that it was a killing. It was not an unintentional or a mistake of a kind. It was a killing. But the important part here is the other side of those stories. The amount of violence that was threatened, because if prosecution was not able to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the story of the criminal cases. So technicality can lead to a throwing away of the case. We know any number of instances of that.
Quite right.
But here what happened was, prior to the verdict being released, there is a very famous Congress lady from California, Mrs. Maxine Waters. She's absolutely ferocious when it comes to hating Republicans, whites, and Trump. I mean, her record, if you just Google her, you'll be shocked to say how vile things she has been saying and gets away with it. She enraged the black people to go on violence and go on resistance if any reason this man was not convicted. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, did not disapprove that. She said she is right about it. And unfortunately, President Biden chimed in as well, saying that the justice will be served only if he is delivered. He was pronounced guilty. Judge in the court case, said that these are interferences in the judgment process, jury influence, and on appeal, this could be a cause for mistrial. Now you see how the whole thing gets played upon. Now, emotional part of it, that the whole thing goes on, and this is where we have to, and this is an example for us Hindus to become aware in this country, because there is a tremendous amount of Hindu unfriendliness arises. I gave the example of Mr. Floyd for one reason, and that reason is that we must watch what is happening in the community. We can't be sleepy-eyed, and we can't be taking things for granted. That's the cause of our undoing. And the attack on Hindus is blatant. You have heard about the swastik. You have heard about swastik being done in other states. You have heard about the caste thing happened in San Diego, in Los Angeles. And now it is being done in Santa Clara. The same caste thing is happening in Santa Clara, which is the Silicon Valley. I wonder, and I hope, if the Hindu community in Santa Clara rises against that. But it is yet to be seen. A coalition has been formed, and we are moving against that aspect as well. So this is a serious issue, and we need to, like I said, that we are a respected community in America, but we don't have a clout. We get taken for granted because we don't speak up, because we don't know how to ask a question, and that's important.
You're quite right. We don't ask questions. That's one thing, and then we let everybody judge us,
right?
Without reciprocating.
Correct.
Why should we let a two-penny organization, an NGO, judge our democracy?
Correct.
Somebody, what is called that Freedom House or something, just comes up. Okay, now who the hell is Freedom House?
Right.
and they are taking opinions from known malcontents whom we know that they subscribe to the leftist ideology of actually vivisecting and completely breaking up India into 17 parts. The Gangadhar Adhikari position paper, which the leftist parties have never disowned, they still stick to that stand. And of course, our great tolerance allows them to even participate in our political process so that they could own up the country and then subvert it, or they subvert it even otherwise, even while being in the opposition. So that's, of course, another part. But the active mm, system of judging our democracy comes from the West, as if the West has a sole right on that. We are the biggest democracy. We have the largest numbers voting. So why shouldn't we judge them? Why should the Western institutions alone be the judge and jury and the prosecutor as far as our campuses are concerned? Why can't we judge their campuses? Why can't we judge uh, their corporates? And why can't we judge the extent of freedom in their different states? And why can't our municipal councils pass resolutions against the racism that is being practiced in America? What stops us from doing that?
We ourselves, because we are so complacent and we become so much Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam mentality, and we become so much Atiti Devo Bhava mentality that we do not realize that there's a difference between the Atiti at the door and the barbarian at the gate. We have to learn to make that distinction between the evil at the door or somebody is really needing help. Not everybody is Sudama. Let's put it that way. Like we have to remember that. I'll give you an instance. I will not name names here because it's important not to mention. There was a particular course done in an Ivy League school. All right. It's talking about evolution of mentality of societies, the way it is growing forward. Now, I will cut short that narrative and make it short. The entire thing was stolen from Hindu philosophy. The consciousness, the meditation, and everything else. But when I said that, why don't you acknowledge that these concepts are of Indian origin, the faculty said, no, it's not Indian. It's universal. I said, that's exactly the point. That universalism arose from India. And he refused to. And I quit his course in protest. I said, I will not attend where you don't even have the courtesy to acknowledge the source. You are a man of academics. We academicians, when they write their PhD or a thesis or a book, they leave behind a trail of indexes in which they acknowledge the source of drawing that inspiration from. And you are not even acknowledging the existence of that source when I'm proving it to you that it is borrowed from ABC. That's the kind of action we have to take, because we need to speak up. One of the things very nicely said to me was by some students was that, sir, the one thing happens in America is that हम इंडिया से जब यहाँ आते हैं तो बड़े प्रसन्न रहते हैं यहाँ पे. There is a very interesting psychological dimension to that. हम बहुत खुश हो जाते हैं यहाँ पे. What are the reasons for being खुश? अच्छा मौसम होता है, heating, air conditioning होती है, dormitories में, classroom में, गाड़ी खरीदने का मौका मिल जाता है. There are financing schemes available. Carpet hoti hai. So everything that was considered luxury is a matter of fact available here. And जब रोड पे गाड़ी चलाने चलते हैं साहब 80 माइल की स्पीड में ठोक देते हैं, कोई रोकने वाला भी नहीं होता. So हम तो वैसे बड़े खुश हो जाते हैं यहाँ के. Who cares for psychological and social things? जो चलता है जन्ने तो ये संजय दीक्षित का काम है, ये विभूति झा का काम है, भारत सरकार का काम है. हमें क्या पड़ा है? Let me make my life happy. I'm cool. I'm happy. But that was the reason why the Hindu student group is not so well organized, because हम यहाँ आके प्रसन्न हो जाते हैं आर्थिक स्थिति देख करके, क्योंकि parents are filling up the student fees or the loans and grants are coming from there. So they are in a state of mind where they are santusht, So they have no desire to get confrontational because they think from the Indian point of view, and that happens. That if in India, as a student, you revolt or say something, your privileges can be denied. That doesn't happen here. But they come with the baggage and the mindset. Yaar, kuch karo mat, don't upset the calculation. Don't upset the apple cart. चल जो कर रहे हैं करने दो क्या फर्क पड़ता है अपने को. That's the mentality that gets us into a very defensive mindset. And that's the point which is very important to bear in mind, that we become non-engaging. Lekin, if you look at it this way, and the students are doing very well, Indians do very well here, because they come, the Indian pool that comes here has already made it through GRE, GMAT, and all those exams, and a very tough pool. Not many Indians would realize that the India ka jo pool hai for admission to US is considered to be the toughest pool. Because in terms of academic accomplishments, there is hardly anything to distinguish. Everybody has top class marks in the top percentile. That is very clear. What happens is that it is the subjective elements that fulfill the requirement of admission here. But it's very important here to remember this particular thing in mind, that we are ourselves very, very forgiving, which becomes our weakness. For example, आपने Freedom House की चर्चा की थी. I saw the Freedom House report. They had truncated the map of India completely by eliminating Kashmir. Therefore, I was disappointed that the External Affairs Ministry cared to give a point-by-point rebuttal. No, give the rebuttal. It's like in 1971, we captured 96,000 soldiers from Pakistan, gave them back without asking anything in return. Wahan pe, I would have, if I were the External Affairs Minister or a bureaucrat in that place, I would have said, first, let's fix the map of India, then we will answer the question. We do not engage in a conversation that makes a point. First, fix the map. You have no locus standi. You are an unauthorized agency. We don't recognize you as an agency. Who are you? I would be asking that question. Freedom House, who are you? Have you done a similar research on other countries that are violators of human rights? Let's talk about it. I'm willing to talk, provided I will apply the same yardstick that Mr. Biden said. We will apply the rule-based laws. So let's kind of do that engagement. And I will tell you something, I'm a believer in it, that if we allow something to happen to us, why am I blaming others? The world is designed in that way. People take advantage of others. Well, the nature of the governance has changed from aristocracy, monarchy, or communism, socialism, and democracy. But essentially, the modern kings live in presidents, in White House and 10 Downing and whatever other Champs-Élysées Palace in Paris and wherever. That's the point which I'm trying to say, is that we have to remember that if we don't ask, nobody's going to ask on our behalf.
Quite right. And also, we start with one small sample set,
Right.
and that is the US campuses. And I know how US campuses routinely distort everything that is Indian.
Right.
And we have some of the most, I should say, Hindu-misic and India-hating academia on the US campuses. And we have had no strategy in place to actually brand them as Hindu-misic or unfriendly to Hindus. In fact, forget the government. Nobody has ever thought of rating these US campuses on an index for Hindu friendliness.
Right.
Why should we be doing that?
Correct. Absolutely. आपने पहले कहा था ना कि यहाँ पे they were addressing India's issues, passing resolutions and everything else, which was driven by mostly Indians here with the Democratic Party, Modi haters and all those people. That said, I'm wondering, a country of 1.3 billion people, nobody thought about that ये क्यों पूछ रहे हैं सवाल हमारे से? ये सवाल पूछने की जरूरत क्या है? I'm not asking you a question. I take back myself to 1991 April, when a first article I came across in New York Times, was an article by the famous reporter called John Burns, I think so, and he had written an article on something frivolous issue on India, 5-column article, and when I asked New York Times, is this the only story worth reporting from India, particularly when we had launched the liberalization campaign? They said, yeah, this is what our public wants to read. And I said to him that if we are not reporting the evil of Bronx and how evil Manhattan's 42nd Street is, we don't stop you. That's the point which is important. That if you are not talking about American inadequacies, why would they? That doesn't mean they can't talk about our inadequacies. We can get angry, but let's have a platform. I would say that we have started this conversation on Jaipur Dialogue. Let's take advantage of technology, and let's do that. I mean, enough number of institutions are there in India that can begin to pass a resolution and question. Now, let's put it this way: caste thing. I am of the opinion, I have the caste thing, the West has no authority, no business.
They are the ones who created the caste.
Exactly. They have no business. But United States has acknowledged its racism problem in the way it is. Otherwise, in 21st century, you won't have the kind of revolt that is happening against racism here. Your president himself is not denying it. Republicans are saying that it is not systemic. Whether it is systemic or not, it's up in the air. But I am asking everybody who says that if you are talking about casteism in India, you have no locus standi. Fix your house first. Charity begins at home. You have no locus standi to talk about, including caste as a concept in affirmative action. So if we don't ask, why would anybody ask on our behalf? Believe it or not, Sanjay ji, in the realm of human resources, the spirituality things Hindu is being talked about everywhere. People are not aware of it. Today morning at 10 o'clock, I was having a conversation with somebody in the UK. They do a remarkable work on unraveling the energy code. Believe it or not, wonderful conversation, wonderful person. When I explained about the energy code from the Hindu point of view, I was told, oh my God, I didn't know. That means I'm a Hindu. I said, you are practicing Hindu. You don't have to leave your Catholic faith, but that's where it is. So if we don't, tell me more about your faith. What I'm saying to you is that if we don't engage people in conversation, I mean, you and I can do, many more can do. And I'm glad that this technology has allowed so many more conversations to happen now. And I'm looking at it, I visit. I don't watch a lot of TV. I always watch TV, other channels, CNN ne, MSNBC ne, us issue pe kya kaha tha, so that I see the bias and reporting in that. I don't watch the whole show of any TV program. I want to watch what are they doing. Likewise, I surf on Clubhouse and Twitter and WhatsApp to see who is talking about what subject matter. You will be surprised to know that number of Hindus who are engaged sincerely and are proud to call themselves as belonging to the right and angry with the left is growing big time. So that's what I'm happy about. As I say, der se aaye durust aaye, and thanks to technology we have the ability to catch up quickly. So
Okay, let me share with you something. I did a small sample. I think we can actually expand it and scale it up.
Yes,
and we may cover, say, to begin with, let's target the US university campuses.
Right.
And I analyzed 3 or 4 universities on a certain set of criteria and sub-criteria. So I will not reveal the entire thing. I will share it with you personally. But each criteria had 5 sub-criteria, and then I informally, it was of course not formal, but so I make the caveat that this was an informal discussion with the students of those institutions, and of course the reported events as well. because there are a lot of reported events about certain institutions.
Mhm.
And so then I ran 3 universities on those criteria. And that was one was Oxford, the other was Harvard, and the third was Rogers. And I prepared what is called a Hindu Friendliness Index on a scale of 0 to 100. 10 parameters, each of them being assigned a weight of 10. So equal weights to all the 10 parameters. And within that, 5 sub-parameters. And lo and behold, the result that I get is astounding. Let me first share with you the criteria. Then I will give you I'll let the suspense remain, and then I will tell you the score. So let's have the criteria coming up on the screen first. Number one, Hindu food availability on campus. Now, this is a very serious issue. Hey, Hindu food is simply not available on campuses. They might say, okay, this is also they can eat, that can eat, but it's nothing like they cater to the Chinese, nothing like that. So that is the comparison. That whether you make Hindu food available the way is the same way that you make the Chinese food available. No, you don't. In fact, hardly anybody does. So generally, everyone scores a 0 on that. Of course, we will request you to send a questionnaire to all the universities and find out.
Yes,
Let's
yes,
do a perfect rating on
no,
this.
we have talked about this, and we will definitely do that. And this particular question is very important because people can't feign ignorance. Because when you fly, you have all categories of food limited given to you in your airline menu, so including
Exactly.
plain food and all kinds of food. So if people can find out what is available, place your order and you can get it. Yeah, certainly.
Exactly. Next, the second parameters that I flagged was Hindu Misia and faculty. Now we've got large number of faculty, especially in places like Harvard and Rogers and Oxford, who are openly Hindu Misic. They hate Hindus. They hate Hinduism and everything and anything that the Sanatana Dharma has contributed to the world, they try and appropriate it to themselves or to some other source, maybe to Buddhism or maybe to even Zen, but not to Hinduism. Hinduism meaning Sanatan Dharma. So that I call, and we have this recent example of this Abhijit Sarkar being let off in spite of open Hindu hatred, this lady, this Audrey Trushke, being let off in Rogers,
Right.
and people like, you have people like Michael Witzel and Sheldon Pollock in Harvard openly running what is called a denigration of the Sanatan tradition.
Right.
So, of course, these three I have rated. So, because I have rated, I went deep into it, and then I came out with a score, which I'll tell you later. The third point on this is Hindu media among students. I think that's something that you can tell us about. I think it's quite high, and it actually colors our students so much that they end up as self-loathing Hindus. I think you noticed this. Would you
Yes.
like to comment on this?
Yes. The thing is, first of all, I would like to educate and I would want you to also educate. So we have heard the word phobia, Islamophobia, this phobia, that phobia. The Misya word is not much known. So this
That's
is
because nobody is scared of Windows.
nobody's
It's
scared.
irrational fear. There
Right.
is no fear. It's
That's right.
simple hatred.
We have to
Misya is hatred.
make this word as a common currency so that we don't get confused with the phobia part. And you are right. Nobody fears Hindus. It is actually the scare. Who are these guys? Why do they end up doing so well in life? Why are they doing so well here? All those things. And our ability to assimilate and adjust is phenomenal. Our ability to adjust and accommodate is phenomenal. Because हमारे में एक attitude है ना, चलता है, जाने दो. हम है ना अपने ठीक में. We don't interfere. You will not find a Hindu student or a Jain student demanding that Jain food वो घर से खाना लेके आ जाएगा. but college में demand नहीं करेगा, but you will find a Muslim student will demand halal food. That's the difference in terms of a political awareness or political assertion that we have talked about, that we have to demand for us. And I go back to that famous description of Indians in this country that was made by by a senator that I had met. And I have shared this with your audience several times. And I'll say that again. But that's the way we are. We don't know how to ask questions. We do not know how to demand something because of the servility, the servile attitude that has crept in us. Part of the thing is that sarkar, माई बाप sarkar है वो करेगी, and sarkar जो है, जो you always end up begging for favors. That's the problem that we have in America, that you don't have to ask for favor from anyone because the system works. And that's what makes us Hindus very, very compliant in the system. So give you an example of how the system works here. 2:30 in the morning or 12 at midnight, whether you are alone on the road, you will stop at the stop sign. That's a simple example. I'll give you an example. I was cheated by a lawyer in another state for a certain amount of money, which was supposed to have been an escrow. Deal didn't happen. I was supposed to get the money back. It didn't come. The lawyer began to make technical objections. And you know what we did? I filed a complaint to the state government, that this lawyer is not returning the money filed here. He should be disbarred. The state immediately moved in, and it's not that 1 year or 2 years. Within 5 days, a letter came to me that it is very unfortunate that our licensed attorney is behaving in this way. We are investigating, and we will revert back to you in the next 15 days. The copy of the letter that was sent to the attorney demanding explanation based on our complaint, the lawyer called me. Oh, Mr. Jha, I was just kidding with you. I was just fooling around. How come I will not give you the paper? But do me a favor, just pull back that complaint so that it doesn't exist on my record. Point of the matter is, we didn't pull back the complaint because that would have been, state would have to take, it will exist in a state record that I can't pull back that complaint. I have to get my money back. System worked. That's the point in the US, which makes Indians very comfortable. It's a Bangalore ka joke hai na, Bangalore Development Authority mein. So aapko approval sanction letter for the land also, you have to bribe the peon 100 rupees to get the sanction letter. So when you come to the United States from that mentality, you feel कि यार काम कितने आराम से होता है. Your रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी. So Indians become very santusht in this community. And that's the reason they suddenly realize that others are attacking. They don't know what to do.
They don't demand their rights. They don't assert their rights.
They don't demand their rights.
They just let them be run over.
Yeah. And this is the classic attitude of Desis. And I classify it. Indian-born confused Desi comes here. He is confused. He's happy with his life here. His children are called American-born confused Desis, who end up being Hindus in name only. but
they just have a Hindu name, that's all.
That's right. But one I'll tell you, my generation of Indians, the first generation of Hindus, parents, are concerned now. Because they are the ones who are waging the battle. They are the ones who are seeing the element of self-respect come. And thanks to Prime Minister Modi. People might call me Modi Bhakt. I always tell them that I'm happy to be a Bhakt than to be a slave of a book. So my bhakti can change.
Oh, yes.
So I'm happy because if
Bhakt is very different from Ghulam.
Yeah.
In fact, I've posted a short video that differentiates between a Bhakt and a Ghulam.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Right. So
the next point is this is repeat. Is availability of self-administered temples and temples. That's a rarity.
It's a rarity.
You don't find it anywhere.
No, it's not there. I would
mosques you'll find everywhere.
Yes.
Not temples.
They call it, in a secular language, they call it the place to pray. That's what they would put it as.
Temples are not a place for prayer. Prayer can be done anywhere.
Correct. No, that was a
Temples
question
are
asked by
places
my
for
son,
worship.
and I will share that with you because he asked me, why do we go to the temple on, why do you insist that I come on a temple? I said, I've never insisted. I want you to be my designated driver just in case I'm not able to drive back. So that's one part. But I'll share with you something very interesting. He asked me as a growing kid, when he was much, much younger, if you say that God lives in us, and हमारे घर में भी भगवान की मूर्तियां बैठा रखी हैं आपने, तो मंदिर क्यों जाते हैं हम? Why do we have to go?
They don't have the notion of the sacred spaces.
Correct.
They only know congregations. They don't know the sacred spaces.
So
And
the important part is here is to make them understand. Why do you go to the temple? It's not for praying. You can pray anywhere you want. That's the way we
exactly.
are. So the question is that you congregate, and I gave him a different answer. My answer to him was that, when you go to the temple, in a temple, the atmosphere is far more pure and far more pious. Nobody goes to the temple, ki Maa Kali mera dushman ko maar dena kal. We go to the temple to pray. So there is a very interesting thing as a vibration part of it. So
Oh,
when
yes,
you
the
go to
energy
the
part of
temple,
it.
yeah, you are participating to use the
Consecration is concentration of energy.
correct,
Consecration of a deity is
correct,
concentration of energy
concentration.
associated with that deity.
Absolutely. And I gave him the example from surfing language because he likes to surf. I said, how the surfer tries to catch the wave. When you catch the wave, you cover maximum distance. And isn't that fun? He said, it is. I said, that's what happens when you go to the temple. You are now part of a wave of prayers that is happening, purity of thought. And that's what happens. You come back from a temple, ringing the, ghanti baja ke, prasad lekar ke, saath mein puja karke, you feel, I achieve an elevated equilibrium. You got the point. The idea is to explain the point in a manner that they understand, not because I'm telling you to come to the temple, tumhe puja karni hai. So campuses do not have temples and Hindus do not demand, but it is fascinating that the awareness of Ganeshji or whatever came to some of the presidents of United States, they have that murti with them. So it is there. It is important. I know sports team practice yoga in the recess time. So there is an acceptance of our way of life, except that we don't claim it is ours, nor have we told them, please do it.
Right. Next one is availability of Hindu administered courses on dharmic themes. That nobody has. I, I couldn't find at least in these three places.
Yeah,
Zero.
उन जगहों में नहीं होगा, but I can very proudly say that we have a Indic Study Center in Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, as well as UCLA, and my partner in Nalanda International, Navid Doshi, is starting Institute of Integrated Medicine, which will include
Okay.
Ayurveda and allopathic, which is Maharishi University is doing it in California, Los
So
Angeles.
UCLA can get a higher score.
Yes, it might get a higher
Good.
score. Absolutely. Absolutely. They have courses.
Next is I'll run it through a little faster because we're already at 40 minutes mark.
Yeah.
Robust grievance redressal. Now, if I saw anything, the evidence, if the evidence of Rogers and Oxford is something to go by, I think the grievance redressal is next to nil.
Yeah, because they are driven by considerations which have nothing to do with academic freedom. One has to remember that part. Truske is hiding behind the so-called banner of academic freedom, but that doesn't give her the freedom to abuse or present
Absolutely.
false. And
Absolutely.
there I will also say,
She abuses big time on her Twitter account.
yeah. And the
And
sad
she
part is,
even went to the extent of calling Bhagwan Ram as a misogynist. Just imagine the person who went to rescue his wife all the way in a time when kings could have hundreds of wives, and he took the vow of one wife, Ek Patni Vrata, and she accuses him of being a misogynist.
Now, here is an important part, Sanjay ji, and that's where I say that we are responsible for letting something go by. And if they had, if Trushke or somebody like her had made a statement about Muhammad, who had a very controversial thing. I mean, if I say this here, somebody will sue me, but everybody knows that he had a wife aged 9, right? If that is not contested upon, if somebody had said something evil or something appropriate, forget about evil, appropriate, or pointed out the bleeding obvious, there would have been international riot. But Ram was called misogynist, and there was no rat squeal anywhere. I say this with anger. राम भगवान की इतनी बड़ी बेइज्जती की उन्होंने, कैंपस तो छोड़िए, इंडिया में भी कहीं प्रोटेस्ट नहीं हुआ, हमने यूएस एम्बेसी, यूएस काउंसुलेट में पिटीशन नहीं डाला. यू कांट इंसल्ट, particularly in a situation where we have just won legal battle to have the Ram Mandir established. कहाँ गई हमारी जागरूकता उन समय में? That's my question to all Indians, that you have to arise awake, assert and act. And this 4 A's, I'm saying, if you don't do it, if we don't do it, why do we expect anybody else to do it? So the grievance, I'll put it this way to you. Grievance redressal mechanism may exist in a university, right? But there will be zero grievances going from Hindus. Because they will say, why bother? ये हमारा attitude है साहब.
Right.
Yeah.
And those grievances are not redressed. Even if I put in a petition, nothing would have happened. But it's not been tested. Wherever it has been tested, it's come a cropper.
No, it is also important to remember that Hindu faculty members, they don't object to that. They also let it go by under academic freedom. Just like Mr. whoever in Oxford was a paid piper, paid chamcha of the system. I hope he sues me. We'll have fun.
Next point that we have is the celebration of Hindu festivals and cultural events. I couldn't find any evidence in these 3.
In these 3, I'm surprised. I'm surprised. I'll tell you why.
And actually, what I'm talking about, I'm not talking about student bodies.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them, the institution celebrates Christmas.
Right.
And the institution supports Easter and other festivities. And it has a very, very kind eye towards the Muslim festivals, for instance,
right.
Even Jewish festivals.
Right.
But I couldn't see any evidence of any support to any Hindu festival and cultural events.
You are totally right. For years, for time immemorial, believe it or not, Muslims got the Eid holiday from New York City, mayor के पास से. उन्होंने जब छुट्टी ले ली, उनकी छुट्टी जब अप्रूव हो गई, तो हिंदू ग्रुप्स began to say कि हमें होली की चाहिए, दिवाली की चाहिए, हमारा वो चाहिए. Mayor Blasio didn't care a damn about that. Didn't give a damn about it. But I think it has now been, because White House does it, so now they have begun to accept it, because we had Diwali on the postal stamp. So their awareness was created. So we are doing it slowly, but not assertively. हम जो है ना वो देर से आते हैं. उसने वैसा किया तो हमें भी ऐसा मांगना चाहिए. हम ये नहीं सोचते हैं कि हम किसी को कोई और मांगे तब हम करें. उसकी जरूरत क्या है? हमारी डिमांड है, हमको मांगना है. Why not? So Hindu festivals, many Indian associations are doing great work about the festivals. And because most of our festivals are for victory of good over evil, people have a greater sense of appreciation for that. And our festivities are not controversial, I'll put it that way. There is a lot of celebration, music, dance, color, light. So people like that. But universities, we will have to do a greater research as to who officially celebrates that.
Okay, next. The absence of colonial narratives in syllabus coursework. The greater the absence, the higher the marks. It goes the reverse.
Well, everybody will get 0 marks in this.
Sorry?
I think everybody will get 0 marks on this.
Everybody will get, because everything is colonial,
Everything.
completely colonial. And absolutely, these three universities which I ranked, they all got 0 marks.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Next, availability of Indian language courses. Now, there is a, a smattering of it, a little bit here and there, not much.
Not much. There is a reason for that. I'll tell you, if you go to a pharmacy, okay, you will find a notice served written there in many languages. Hindi is not there. Bengali is there because of Bangladesh. Bengali is not there because of West Bengal, our Bengal. Bengali is there because of Bangladesh. Urdu is there. Every language is there. And then they also have a notation. If you do not have your language in it, please let us know. Right? And I went and said, why is Hindi not here? I was picking up my share of medicine. I said, I want Hindi there. So that person took the note, said, we'll inform. I got a call from there saying that majority of the Indians know English. That's why we felt it was not necessary to put Hindi.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So knowing English actually becomes a handicap.
It's a handicap for you. But I said that you have no idea that many elderly people who are here, they may not be conversant with your style of English. And therefore, if you put the Hindi thing, it will help. I don't know whether it's in consideration or not, but Indians are reckoned in the category, they know English. So the language is not a problem with them. It's a positive and as well as a negative, yes.
Okay. Next, the last criteria on this that we put in is the bias in placement services.
Let me put it this way about bias part. Place where Indian students are so good that they want to be picked up. So I would say that they will openly decline there is bias and they will get very high marks because most of the Indian students get great placement.
But my definition is a little different.
Yes, sure. Go ahead.
Say, very bright students will get picked up automatically. So this is going to be judged on the basis of there are two similarly placed students who gets picked up. That's the deciding point.
I'll put it this way to you. I will say it rather confidently. I'll tell you what, that the quality of Indian students is so good that you might choose to discriminate against others, but let's get the Indian guy. He's good. He knows his maths. He knows his science. He can calculate. So
no, but I rated them on a slightly differently. I wasn't looking at the top slides actually. Yeah. I was looking at the mid slides.
Even the average, Sanjay ji, even the average Indian guy is better than majority of the average. He comes into the higher percentile.
So let me put it this way.
All right, go ahead.
Let me put it this way. Let me explain what I'm meaning to say.
Yeah.
The two guys with 80 percentile, okay? They're not in the 99 above percentile. The two guys in the 80 percentile, okay? So let's say there are three guys, and they are in the 80 percentile. And one is an Indian, the other is an American, and a third is...
Black or white?
Off-white. So one white, one off-white, and one Indian. Right. Then there is only one place. Who gets picked up?
I will answer this question I will try to be funny, but I hope people get the spirit of it. So if you have to choose between a Dixit and a Jha, both have 80%, who would you pick? So let's be human and let's allow some human frailty to play. That's what makes us human, right?
But my little investigation that I did,
yes,
they revealed that there was a bias in such a situation in favor of the white.
It will be. It will be. I mean, I can't. I will never say.
So, all the three scored 0 on this.
That is called the process of natural selection, I guess.
And we all now now we are almost 50 minutes. So now it's time for me to reveal the ratings.
Okay.
And rating says that the third place goes to Harvard, actually. Yes, Harvard scored a very high 27. Lo and behold, out of 100. Of course, they don't get the pass marks because pass marks would at least be 50, I guess. So don't get the pass mark. They're about 27, 28, or thereabouts. So if we do a little more leniently, they'll probably go to 30. And Oxford scores only 17. And Rogers gets 7. They top.
Rutgers should have got 0. And I'm
No, they got
encouraging.
7. I'll tell you why. Because they managed to score somewhere. No, they had a few. I think they got some Indian language courses and all that.
Yeah, I would definitely urge Rutgers Hindu students, take transfer, go to some other place, let them learn the lesson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why should anybody go to Rogers? So they
Why?
got a rating of 7 out of 100.
Correct.
Indian students, wannabe US students, those who want to go to the US, listen to this. And now I would request Vibhuti Ji to please come on board and let us rate 100 US universities first. And after that, we will begin with the other institutions.
I will
Why
do
not?
that.
Let this become a movement.
I have promised to
Let
do
this
that,
become a
and I commit to do that. And we will, we'll phrase the questions for the US universities in a manner that evokes response, not yes and no. I want to do this exercise very seriously. It's not a yes and no tick box. It is very important to also remember that, to find out if they know anything about it. Do you know? Are you aware of? And I will make the questions, word it in a manner, because I'm also a student of management, so I know a little bit about marketing thing, and how to phrase the question. So having participated in many polls, I will definitely do this. It's high time, and doing that. For example, caste thing. I don't know if I have time to share that. Just as I shared the cow story, I had my own answer for the caste conundrum that India faces, and nobody gives their answer for that. And when I was asked about this caste thing, your country has a caste problem, I said, yes. I don't know whether it's as bad or as good as your racism problem. My immediate counter to that is, so if you are having a racism problem in sports and everywhere else, why are you singling out caste in India, which doesn't affect you and I? That's my question to you. It is my internal problem. We are dealing with that. We have provided constitutional protection. Let's deal with that. The other part is, I said every country has its own caste system. And I gave that example, that everybody from prime minister, president to the lowest level of village guy is part of the government, running administration, making laws, and ensuring safety of people. They are the modern Brahmins. Everybody from the military to the security guard of a bank or a building is willing to give a life to protect an asset or a life. They are the modern warriors. Everybody who does trade and commerce and does any business, they are the modern warriors. And everybody who does any service providing, whether it's a banking, IT, accounting, doctors, they are the modern Shudras. Do you have people in these categories or not? That's the new modern definition of this. There is no caste. Sugarcane grower doesn't have a caste, right? Likewise, a soldier in the armed forces doesn't have a caste. He's a soldier. So the functionality determines the entire thing. They say, oh, okay, makes sense. The point here is, Sanjay ji, that one individual doesn't make anything happen. This is an individual battle. I have done it. I'm doing it. I'll continue to do it. But I'm very happy about one thing, that technology is allowing us to spread the message and the word. And that is an advantage we Indians must take. This beautiful tectonic shift that has happened in technology, it has given us arms and legs and a mouth and face. Whether we want to cover it with name or anonymous, let's do it. That's what I'm trying to say here. And we must do it. Thank you.
Okay, very well put. And let's move to the question and answers now. Before that, I have to announce that our Fatawa Alamgiri translation page is up. And all those who are seriously interested in research into The laws that governed India for the longest time and still govern the mind space of the largest minority in India, then they are welcome to come and share the burden of the translations that we have taken up. Just imagine this book that was the law for India for a century and law for the Mohammedan till today. And of course, Asaduddin Owaisi very proudly said that in, I think, one of the major events that we have created Fatawa Alamgiri, and that is our law. And we don't know about it. There isn't an English translation, there isn't a Hindi translation. So we are now undertaking a Hindi translation of this. This is our Purva Paksha, our own research into a community that, not we, that community thinks us to be their adversary, who, that is us, need to be conquered by them. So we must study their ways. And for that, this crowdfunding has been organized. Okay, so please like and share the video, subscribe the channel, and do keep favoring us with your contributions. Let's move to the questions and answers. Aditya Chauhan, I am from Delhi. I got an offer letter from King's College London in advanced computing science. Did UG from Delhi College of Engineering, now working in Wipro Noida. Please advise on how to adapt in foreign environment as I have stayed in home so far.
Aditya, you are talking to a wrong guy. I left home at the age of 9. So one of the ways I'll tell you adjusting with any environment is, first of all, be yourself. That's most important thing. अपनी आइडेंटिटी को कभी भूलिए मत. और पूरे, there's a very nice difference between being proud about something and being arrogant about it. Be proud of your name, Aditya Chauhan. Be proud of your name, your identity. And that's so important. At this point in time, I can't give you so much in this, but I can give a lecture on this. Actually, we can do a whole show about how the students must adjust. But don't relent and give in to unreasonable demands. That's very important. I'll give you one example. That made me angry, actually, that particular story, that when somebody was forcing a young boy to have beef, and it happened in front of me, and that person was forcing him to have beef. And I told him that तुम बहुत बड़ा पाप कर रहे हो. And I said to him कि you will have to be careful, because evil will get you, because you are trying to destroy a young boy's cultural tradition. And I said, I will have pork with you if I will get you a decent, very tasty pork belly. Let's have a pork together, you and I, right now. If you have the pork, I'll have the pork and he will have beef. But agar wo takat nahi hai, so don't try to destroy somebody. I want you to remember only one thing. Go to England, congratulations for this offer. But be yourself, retain your identity, be proud of your identity, and learn something about who you are, why you do what you do. That's very important. Of course, in UK, the Indian presence is so big that you may not have to worry about it. But these three things I will tell you will always help you stand out.
Correct. Next. My sword. Has the government completely undone all the good work that health worker system did in the first wave by being complacent and overconfident? Kumbh oblique rally. Sorry, my sword. This is not the topic for the day. Please ask the question on the topic. Next. Amit Pandey, thank you, Amit ji. Himanshu Tiwari, thank you, Himanshu ji. Dear Sanjay ji, I live in the US. I have been watching and learning a lot from your video interviews of many individuals on various topics. I would highly recommend doing an interview with the US cultural historian Dr. Morris Berman, whose works are critically acclaimed. That looks like a very good suggestion.
We'll
So,
definitely invite him on JD USA. Maybe we'll hit off with him, Sanjay ji.
yes, certainly, definitely.
Absolutely.
Why not?
Thank you for the suggestion, Himanshu.
Saffron blue. Jai Shri Krishna. Today is Jai Shri Ram, bhai. Happy with Hindu community support for Rashmi Thompson. Support groups are key to Hindus standing up. They are often scared of losing jobs, etc.
This is a correct observation because we generally are not aggressive people. So we accept things very compliantly. And this is a time when you begin to assert yourself, rise up. Absolutely important.
That's when the institutional support should matter.
Right.
So we from Jaipur Dialogues will do it. You just support
Yes,
us. That's all.
absolutely. Yeah.
Sabrish Narayanan, please add negative weights for active Hindu Messiah. Okay, we haven't thought of negative weights as yet.
Let the positive run first.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
Thakur Rohit Jaraj, my wife was forced Hindi translator when my daughter was born in Seattle, but I was idiot to reject it.
Jairaj Singh, Rohit Thakurji. That's right. There was once or twice. You should do this. They are now. What is happening is that because a lot of elderly people who are here, but Indians are not a law and order problem either. That's another issue. You need the language or translators because people from your community are a big problem. But Indians are not a problem, so nobody cares for that element. But go apply for it. That's all. Take it again.
Next. Rahul, do you think by any chance China can be behind second wave of COVID in India? Because China is cunning and can pull up bad things easily. Again, off topic, but all I can say is that nobody can give COVID to anyone if he is observing COVID compliant behavior. So that's where the Indians slipped up big time. Next. Okay, so that brings this particular session to an end.
Thank you.
All viewers. Thank you, Vibhuti Ji.
Thank you.
Jai Hind.
Jai
Vande
Shri Ram.
Mataram.
Jai Shri Ram. Wishing everybody a happy Ram Navami. And to Sanjay ji, your first session was very nice. आपने श्लोक पाठ किया सारा. So.
अच्छा आपने सुना था?
I saw.
Okay.
भाई हम अमेरिका में रहते हैं इसका मतलब नहीं है कि हम धार्मिक नहीं हैं. हम धर्म के प्रति हैं. Thank you.
So Jai Shri Ram on Ram Navami once again.
Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
चलिए